So I took up another minor subject from her. I remembered she joked about my hijab. She said, "Are you hiding a bomb under that?" So I said, I just couldn't. I don't know what to answer, so I just
Yeah.
laughed. So, and the feeling was really awkward. I didn't really have any power to defend myself.
Hey everybody, welcome back to ATV. I'm Reese and today we have here Amina. Hello Amina. So today we're going to be talking about Muslim women in the Philippines as well as their misconception of the culture. But first, Amina, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
So, hi everyone, I'm Amina Rasul Natangkop. You can call me Amina or my nickname Danya. I am a Muslim Filipina. I am particularly from Marawi City, from Mindanao. I am a legislative and development and advocacy worker.
How has it been? You've mentioned that you grew up in Saudi Arabia and then you moved here to the Philippines. Can you talk about your experience in general, adjusting from where you've lived before and now?
I was born in Mindanao, in my father's hometown in Balindong, Wato. And when I was around 7 or 6 years old, my family we went abroad for, of course, for greater opportunities. And my childhood, I grew up in Saudi Arabia in Jeddah. And when I was about to turn into a junior in high school, my family decided to return to the Philippines. So if you can just imagine at that age, 15 or 14 years old, a young adolescent, a young teen, and having to go through that kind of shall I say, an overall change with the country, with the environment, and even the culture. Even if I say that I'm a Filipina, it was it was massive difficulty for me, especially being, I would say at that age, I'm very immature. So you can now, you can now imagine the kind of being lost. And I didn't really,
Definitely.
yes, I didn't really, in terms of finding guidance, I didn't really want to, ask my mother and, tell her, I need you all the time. And, to me, I felt like I didn't want to disturb her that much because she technically stood as a single parent when we returned to the Philippines because my dad had to stay abroad and continue his work. And so, at that point of my life, there were a lot of nuances, difficulty, and I was just in a whirlwind of a lot of, questions,
For
a
sure.
lot of, in my side also, I had a lot of misconceptions of the things that were, coming into me as soon as I stepped foot at the airport in Naiya when I returned to the Philippines. And a lot of this, for example, how women dressed here,
I
I
was just
could
gonna
I
ask.
could imagine in Saudi it was a lot hotter. The environment, the climate is a lot hotter there.
I
But
see.
when I returned here, it's quite humid, and I realized more women were less covered, of course. So I had that first question, and I think one of the greatest challenge for me, it didn't bug me so much seeing
Okay.
the, I guess, the difference when it comes to attire, but when it comes to the food, I believe that's the hardest part for me, especially when I now started school in our facilities in our cafeteria. There weren't much inclusive options. So um, oftentimes, if I didn't wake up so early to prepare my own food, I will just go on the whole day not eating because, yeah, because, you know, food for me and ensuring that my food is halal, it's safe,
Exactly.
it's clean, is part of how I practice my religion. Although I must give a disclaimer that not all Muslims are strict.
Exactly.
I know couple of relatives and even Muslim friends who are not who are not that. And to me, I'm not a Muslim police. I don't really like policing in general people, and whatever they preach or they do with their lives. But in my case, in a hijabi during that time and up until now, it was a lot difficult because I remember whenever I tried to order something, I would send my inquiry. Is this safe? Is there no pork? Before around 2013 or 14, I remembered whenever I asked the cafeteria personnel, is this safe? Can I eat this? I'm a Muslim. They'd say, yeah, it's safe. I mean, maybe for in the name of business, they would say that. And I remember there were times that I even had to validate it with Christian or Catholic friends. And this is where I guess where I built a lot of rapport and trust with my Christian Catholic sisters because they would tell me, no, I know that's pork. You
Yeah.
can't eat that. So
Exactly.
I had those friends who would give the initiatives to have the initiatives within themselves that they would police my food. So I remember going into college, there were still these difficulties when it comes to finding the right food. I remember I found my two best friends in college, both Catholics, and they would inspect my food for me because I would go in times literally not eating because the options were just so tight. So I don't want to
Yeah.
risk anything. So, going into that transition, growing up in an Islamic country, Saudi Arabia is a Sharia law country. Unlike what I was saying, mentioning to you earlier, unlike our country, a democratic republic country, which is just a diverse country really, and allows the promotion of human rights for all of us to have our choices and to live by our rights. It's very unlike with the country that I grew up in. And
Yeah.
to have that kind of transition, at first it was great, massive, as I've said, difficulty, a lot of
Definitely.
challenges.
I see you have experience dealing with Muslim culture here and there. Do you notice a difference, for example, you mentioned intersectional feminism a while ago, with the culture of Muslim women in Saudi Arabia as well as here in the Philippines?
There are great differences. Firstly, as I've noted earlier, when it comes to policies, there's this saying that culture and tradition in a state, in a nation, is greatly influenced by the kind of laws or policies that it adheres to.
Yes.
And we all know Sharia or Islamic law. Of course, it adheres to the guidelines, to the practices or sunnahs, as we call it, dictated under the Holy Quran. So it's very different from what we have, from the kind of doctrines that we have here in our country, which is, for me, we should be very appreciative of. We should, be belonging in a kind of society that's very diverse. We have to, you know, we have to be thankful about it. It's something.
Okay.
It's something
Yeah.
for me. Another thing that I've perceived. It's something that we quite take for granted also. So it's very important to understand that we have that kind of democratic process in this
Yes.
country. And in your question, what may be the difference? There's a lot, going back from in general how you live your life in Saudi Arabia. You can't just go out without the proper attire. You can't just go
see.
out and or even visit the country and bring any stuff without having the appropriate consultation. There are a lot of things that are
Interesting.
banned from the country, like
Yeah.
alcohol,
I heard.
pork, and
Yeah.
other stuff, which is not banned here, right?
Mm.
So there are a lot of differences that influence the experience of women there compared to the women here, to the Muslim women here. I think for us Muslim women here, another thing, I guess I stress a lot when it comes to policies because I'm a legislative worker and I understand the law. So I
Okay,
hope I'm
Queen.
not Sorry, I hope I'm not
Go
boring
off,
you
Queen.
about
I
it.
definitely not.
But I think here, despite the you know the holisticness of the kind of policies that we have,
Okay.
we again lack the awareness, particularly in the side of Muslim women. I think that's why I'm a staunch advocate for the empowerment of women, because the empowerment of women for me is, it's a very big responsibility. It's a great and a massive, an in-depth study and advocacy that you have to commit to.
Exactly.
And one of the pillars of, effective and adequate empowerment of women is the awareness of the law and policies. And I think for us Muslim women, we need to be more aware, involved, and proactive when it comes to knowing the kinds of policies that, number one, protects us, and number two,
Yes.
discriminates us.
I see it's very challenging to live in a country where most or everything is catered towards a Catholic, predominantly Catholic mass. How have you experienced, for example, have you ever experienced discrimination here and miseducation?
When I matured, one of the challenging experience that I had was during the 2017 Marawi Siege.
Yes.
I'm from Marawi, and I also have a sister. We don't really look alike because she doesn't practice. She doesn't cover.
Okay.
Yeah, she doesn't cover, and we have our differences.
Younger?
But actually, she's just 1 year younger, but we're at
Okay.
the same level. We're always at the same section, same. We do everything because my mom tries for us to be twins. So
Yeah, non-identical twins, I was just gonna
no,
say.
but yeah, I have another sister, and I remembered we went to this professor in her faculty, and we were just asking for something, and I remember this professor was really she had a lot of false information. She believed in that a lot. And at the height of the Marawi siege, there were also a lot of discrimination that was, popping in.
Yeah, with the Muslim community.
Yes, especially here in NCR and even in other parts of the country. I remembered she joked about the Marawi siege. She told she saw my sister because that was the first time I introduced her to my
Okay.
sister, and she said, "Why is your sister not covering? Why is she not wearing the hijab?" And I said, "It's fine. In our family, we don't impose the
I see.
practice the practice of covering." So, okay, she said. So technically, you're part of ISIS, and your sister is Maud. And so I
What
couldn't-
on earth?
honestly, that was in a faculty lounge. So everybody who heard, everybody who heard were just really concerned and bothered, and we could
They
really,
would be.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could feel it at the back of.
I'm sorry you have to go through that.
And that kind of ostracization didn't really stop from that professor. I remembered I took up her subject again. I really couldn't. I couldn't.
Can't escape her.
I couldn't escape her. I needed to pass. So I took up another minor subject from her. I remembered she joked about my hijab. She said, "Are you hiding a bomb under that?" So I said, I just couldn't. I don't know what to answer, so I just
Yeah.
laughed. So, and the feeling was really awkward. I didn't really have any power to defend myself. But
Yeah.
I think, these kinds of stereotyping that I experience, it needs to be understood that in a larger demographic, many, many more Muslim women experience a lot worse. I think we see this not just in the U.S. or in other countries
Okay.
that have such the rise of hate and other challenges towards human understanding is just trickling down. Here in our country alone, there's still great stigma. There's still
Definitely.
like what you mentioned. There's still lack of information. There's still
Heavily.
yeah. There's still I guess there's still lesser dialogues. And again, I return to my first point. That's why I'm very, very glad and very thankful whenever I receive any opportunity, may it be whatever kind of performance or kind of participation I have to show. So as long as I be there, I belong, I find the seat. As one of the famous sayings go, if you don't have a, if you don't belong in somewhere, I think it's time for you to establish yourself. So that's
Exactly.
been my work throughout the years. So I'm really, really glad again.
Thank you.
I'm really,
Thank
really
you.
glad.
I wanted to bring up a lot because you spoke about your professor disguising, well, it wasn't disguising, using discrimination as a form of humor. And I don't think people understand how this trickles. Like, this isn't something that's just, oh, it's just humor. Why don't you take a joke? I don't think it works that way. I'm pretty sure you've heard these examples, like, of how dangerous this could actually
Yes.
be.
For the case of that professor, one of the things I find,
Call her out.
I think one of the things that made it even harder to be part of her class in general, or to have her within my jurisdictions, or to share that air with her. I remember the very first. I think, yeah, this is why we also have to understand that hate is, it's an umbrella, and a lot
Exactly.
of isms, sisms fall under that. Sexism, Islamophobia, all of those. And that's all connected to lack of understanding, hate, lack of education.
Yes.
And I really believe that this professor of mine, unfortunately, that's a pathway that she's going through.
I feel you would look to professors as, people of authority with education that you would
Yes.
learn from. And it's
Exactly.
disappointing to see this in our school
Exactly.
system still.
Exactly. That's why, me, I always try to be understanding and give people the benefit of the doubt, to give people a little bit of a chance. But this professor,
She had a lot of chances here. Ma'am, excuse me. Like, I'm so sorry that you and your peers had to go through that. Like, I myself have been the butt of those things as well. It seems that there's just this prevalent kind of communication
yes.
with pitting women down with their choices, as well as women pitting
Yeah.
women against women as
Yeah.
well. A lot of people are willing to be more inclusive and to be able to be more proactive with their peers and, of course, their own advocacies as well. So I've seen that you've worked in this sort of industry, and I want to ask, and the people want to know, how are we able to educate ourselves more? Like, are there available seminars? Would you know of any free courses, for example, that would be accessible to more people? Like, I'd love to know. I mean, we'd love to know.
I think, well, I wouldn't really say that there are much available spaces or the least much available resources when it comes to educating ourselves on these kinds of topics that quite lack further understanding and awareness in our society, because it's prevalent. It also shows in our nation, in our small communities, how we lack the education. I think number one, um, I still believe that I quite have a student leader, because I was a student leader before, but now I'm a young leader, and I believe also in the power of leaders influencing people, and I also
Yeah.
believe in the power of people influencing change and
Exactly.
progress and development. And when we discuss things about awareness, this leads to progress. And progress, it needs cooperation, it needs partnership. So I think we need more leaders, number one, to, do their job, to be effective, to be
Exactly.
reliable,
Exactly.
to be honest, to be competent.
And to listen.
Yes, and to listen. They need to know how to return the power, the empowerment to the people. And once the people realize these objectives and the things that need to be performed by the leaders, they also have to understand their power as citizens, or their power as ordinary people. I don't really want to go into details into what's enshrined internationally or nationally in laws of what gives you the right, the choice, what validates you as a citizen. But in general, as a human being, you have the power to act, to be proactive, to participate, to share your thoughts. Even if I'm provided the chair, I feel like I'm still having such anxiety, because for women like me, I feel like our representation is so few that it's so important
Yeah.
for me to act up and
Yeah.
really bring the best of the best, because out of the 10 chairs, it's just me or none. So
Well, thank you for being a voice.
yeah.
Yeah, like I'm very appreciative that you came out here and spoke about this. I feel the view in general with Muslim women is very limited, especially here. And I feel the heavy stigma that comes around with, like that comes with it. And I just wanted you to thank you for opening that up. Thank you so much, everybody. You have been wonderful, Amina. I think we learned a lot, definitely. I will definitely look into these things more. Lastly, can I ask, like, is it possible to like join any seminars on this?
Yes, again, we the youth, we're very fresh-minded. We love to explore. So I think we have to just trigger our proactiveness, our involvement and participation.
Okay.
And being involved in these kinds of seminars, or not just seminars, but in general conversations or forums.
Definitely.
Even in your small circles is so important. So I highly encourage you, or any young fella, or anybody from any age bracket, to join and to be involved and to learn more about things that you don't know. May it be about the cultures or the backgrounds of people from different religions, or from for Muslims. In general, it's important to raise awareness and to be educated.
Exactly.
That's the foundations of understanding.
Definitely being able to open up and listen to your peers and learn about differences, and in turn create like a more inclusive society that caters to everybody, where we can unite and move forward and just be happy. So yeah, thank you so much for spending some time here for At the Back Door. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. If you like this video, please check out our other videos. You can share this as well and comment down below if you have any takes. We'd love to hear it all. So thank you so much for watching. I'm Reese, this is Amina. I'll see you next time. Bye.
In English, she's asking if she's a slut or
A prostitute.
yeah, or a prostitute, because her skirt was so tight or so short.
Who let her in? Who let her in? Can I just ask? I don't. Somebody needs to tell her. Who let her in?